Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Lance here. Lance, you're somebody that has, started the wave of really what today is metaverse. You created virtual worlds really early on. You were working on them for years and years. Since I think 2000 was the first virtual world you created, and then you helped, one of the three people that helped create Club Penguin, which so many people, that was really their first interaction with an online community, especially young people. And they made a lot of friends through Club Penguin and had a lot of interesting experiences. Wouldn't have been possible without what you did. And then you've kind of taken your talents also to the app space, and you've created Adventure Capital, a bunch of different apps that have been fun to play and have, I think, engaged a lot of people. And you've just been someone who's been creative for a while. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Ben. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Happy to answer some questions.
So Lance, the first question that I have, so where did your passion for business, come from, and even just creating video games? Like, how did you first get into creating games? When did you decide, hey, I want to go and make games for a living?
Oh my goodness. Well, business always been around. Even as a kid, I was running my own stuff. My brother and I actually had a snow shoveling company. We cleared like tons of stores, everything around the town. We used to live in Invermere in Canada, and always had a knack for business. Always loved entrepreneurship. But early on, I was actually a career of design. I loved design. I'll go way back. As a kid, I used to create my own comic books and write my own game design documents. And then as I moved into older teenagers and a young 20-year-old, I was just leaning heavily into design. I started my career in graphic design and different work like that. Started actually being self-employed, working on my own projects, running my own company at the time. And when the internet came out, this is really dating me. So I'll back up a little bit more too. While I was a graphic artist, I was also running back then a bulletin board mud games. Mud games are multi-user dungeons that you'd phone into people's houses. Mine apartment had multiple lines, so you could play a multiplayer text adventure combat game and build up your characters in role-play games at the time. While I was a graphic artist, working at t-shirts and different things. And then the internet came out around 94, 95, and I really dove into web design and started learning all about the internet. It wasn't until the introduction of Flash, which really changed my life. Flash able to create these animated things in internet, and then Flash added a programming language called ActionScript. With ActionScript, it was the first time I was like, hey, I could start building some of my own games. So I combined my design abilities with my own, pretty okay coding abilities. Not great, but enough to get the job done. And started building games. So officially launched my own personal company in 1999 called Rocket Snail Games, and started building products. I've loved design. Design is like, in my mind, it's creating solutions visually and experiences that people can I love it. I love to entertain people. I love that they enjoy the products. I love that they like to play them. I love trying to figure out the challenges of how to keep them engaged, what they like, what they want to play, what they want to do. The irony of the whole thing is I don't play any games. So it's like 3 or 4 games. But it's actually, if you do a little research, the creator of Mario, everything, he doesn't play any games either. So we love creating games is my passion. And that just kept letting. The business side is interesting. So in an effort to make games and make products and make my own stuff, nobody would hire me. Nobody knew what a web game was. Nobody did anything. And my friends that eventually made later was like the founder of miniclip.com, and I worked with various other groups. And Rob Small, CEO of Miniclip, I remember phoning me up and asking for some of my games. And I had to learn really quickly, like, well, how do you price a game? How do you sell a game? How do you do work for hire? How do you license? How do you do whichever? How do you hire a lawyer? So I just had to start diving in and learning the whole thing. And it wasn't until about 2004 when I partnered with Lane and Dave. And Lane was curious about this project I was working on that was taking up my Wednesday nights and my Fridays. And I said, well, this is a little penguin world I'm working on. And he challenged me saying, like, well, if you worked out full time, how long would it take? I said, well, it'd be pretty fast, maybe a year or so to build. And Lane and I proposed to Dave, and Dave said, "Okay, let's do it." So we put the whole company together and ran forward and built what you now know as Club Penguin. So that's the pre-story. Business, it was my own survival. If I wanted to do my own graphic art, my own design, be a freelance contractor or anything, I had to learn how to sell, how to price, how to invoice, how to work with lawyers, how to do accountants, how to do the business side. And I'm still learning about the importance of different accounting documents, and still hate spreadsheets. But anyway, whatever. They're part of the job.
So Lance, so you're building this like penguin world.
Yep.
It's kind of, you meet these other, potential co-founders, right? You're building this world. Like what was it at that time? And like, how did this kind of idea come about for really what it was? It's a social interactive space. You can customize the penguin. You can build your own place to be in. Like, how did that kind of come up? Like the full idea come to life?
Well, so the original idea was I love strategy technical games. My original idea was a massive multiplayer snowball combat game. It was going to be a war game. There's some really old turn-based games that I used to play and stuff like that I loved. And that was started the design. But I knew, all my design practices, I've always start with something small so you can test it. So the smallest I can come up with, and there were penguin characters. They were going to be armed up with snowball launching weapons and catapults, all sorts of things. Interestingly, the only game we did not launch in Club Penguin, which was the snow forts were built and no snowball war game was ever added, even though that was the original idea. From that, I broke it down to the simplest thing, and I said, well, if I could figure out the servers, the persistency, basically, could I have multiple players walking around on screen as a penguin? Could they chat with each other? Could they throw snowballs, which is why the snowballs were very first feature? And could they talk? And if they could talk, I could send other signals too, like I changed my wardrobe, but whatever. And I show some persistence. And that was the original design. So I started building the first, it was called Experimental Penguins, which was also Snow Blasters in, I think it was 2000. And wham, that was a smash hit. I actually won Cool Site of the Day back then awards. Over its lifetime, it actually had nearly 1 million players for the original Penguin Chat. And then the later versions went, oh, well, I better give up on my idea of this snowball massive multiplayer. Nobody cares. Everybody just wants to hang out, chat with each other, and have fun. So I started Penguin Chat. That was versions 2 and 3. And 3 is actually kind of fake. 3 wasn't really 3. 3 was Club Penguin. It's just we called it 3 so that nobody knew what we were doing. And so we launched 2. 2 added databases, added persistence, added the ability to create an account, save a character. And it's the original world that you know. It's the town, the coffee shop, the shop, dance club or nightclub or whatever. We always got in trouble what to call it, disco. And it depends on which country you're from. Some of them are offensive and some of them are okay. That was the original build. It wasn't until meeting Lane and Dave and around 2004 when I started diving into this thought, this idea. It's only a 2-page design document, actually, of a lot of these news articles were about the internet's not safe for children and the dangers of chat and messengers and different things like that. And I wrote a 2-page thesis because I had a small child at the time, and this is what entrepreneurs do. You try to solve the problem. And I went, how do I keep kids safe online? In essence of what the document is a parenting technique of distraction. Keep the kids busy, they stay out of trouble. So I just wrote, what could I do online with all these kids to keep them busy and they don't actually chat with each other? So we came up with this idea of constant content, mini games, things to do, earn coins, events, etc. The party idea, though, actually, is not created in that original design document. That was during beta. And during beta, we just needed we wanted to load the server up. How many people could be here? We didn't know. So we threw a beta party and gave away a hat, and everybody showed up, and we went, oh, well, that's how you get everybody back. So that was the invention of parties. But yeah, no, it was just this organic process of starting with the first question of how do you create a safe place for kids to play online. And my thesis was keep them distracted, keep them busy. So we were one of the few products ever at the time that did this, what now in the game industry is called live ops of or LTVs, like I forget what it stands for. Not LTV, that's lifetime value. It's LTEs, limited time events. So these constant event cycles. And then we started this heavy Club Penguin always launched content every week. And that was part of its cycle. It was very unique for us and the market. Does that help? That gets to that one?
So,
you got more questions about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, you basically you figure out kind of you come up with this idea. You have the right partners. You have the team behind it. How did you kind of you create this version of it? I think it was early on. It was only limited access. Then it was publicly available. Like, how did you kind of get the initial traction? Like, what was the marketing you used? Was it just kind of friends and family? Like, how did you start getting people onto the game that were outside of your network?
Well, first of all, the Penguin Chats had over 1 million players. So we first asked the Penguin Chat audience, hey, do you want to try something new? So they were the ones that signed up for the beta. So that gave us, I don't remember the active user count, but I'm going to say it was over 10,000 people signed up for the beta test. I want to say 50, but I think I'm now exaggerating because it's been too long. So let's just say it's 10. So they signed up for the original test, and that gave us plenty of users, and they started inviting their friends, etc., like that. So that gave us that initial, the very large seed of an audience. So you have 5 years built up of users already, and then started the beta. The plan for marketing was to partner with, like, call it a distribution channel or a site. At the time, it was a toss-up between Yahoo was interested in being our launch partner. So we'd officially launch on the official Yahoo well, at the time it was called Yahooligans. That's their children's version of Yahoo. We were actually going to be a Yahoo product at the time. We were talking with them to be on their main launch site. And then there's this startup, this little spunky startup called miniclip.com. And we decided, Yahoo's too big. It would probably hurt us because it'd be too many things for us to have to learn to grow our company that fast. So we said, we'll go with Miniclip. But by the time we launched, with Miniclip, and I want to say it was February, March. So we launched in October 2005. I think Miniclip was in that early time of 2006. Miniclip was the number one children's website around the world. So it didn't matter what happened. We had to go with the largest site anyway. And I don't remember the numbers, but it was high. It was over 50 million unique kids per month playing miniclip.com. So we were right on the homepage. Boom. Wow. We didn't launch that way. They put it out, give us 100,000 players, put it out, give us 100,000 players. And we grew into it as our servers kept crashing and we couldn't figure out a scale and all sorts of problems. But once we figured all that out, and it just took a couple months, and then they were just like, put us on the homepage, and we stayed there. I don't know. How long did we stay there? Probably 5, 8 years. If you think of the numbers there. So that, like, a lot of people go like, what was your marketing? That was our marketing. It was miniclip.com. And they took a percentage of every kid that became a member, they took a percent. So that's how they did it. So they did all their marketing. I don't know what they did. Bought ads, did something, but they had all the traffic.
So Lance, Disney comes around only a couple of years after you really create this. They offer you guys, and they buy you guys out for I think like $350 million. I think even beforehand you were selective about even doing specific types of advertising and venture capital. Like, why did you think that Disney was the ideal partner? And how did this kind of did they reach out to you? Like, how did this kind of interaction come about?
That's a better question for my partner Lane. He negotiated most of that start, but the lore or the myth that I know of is it was actually Walmart. So I want to say Christmas 2006 it ended. We entered 2007, and Walmart, we showed up on everybody's radar. Basically, Walmart and all of them said, kids were coming into the stores looking for Club Penguin toys, and there's nothing, no merchandise.
Huh.
And we started getting calls. I believe it was Walmart that called and said, "Hey, how can we order toys for the 2007 Christmas year or holiday year?" And we sat there as a team going, "We don't know how to do that. We barely can keep our game running. We're working as hard as we can to make our game." And my understanding of the fabled story is Lane hung up on that call and said, "I don't know. How do we do toys? Does anybody know how to do a global launch of toys?" No. And the next call was Bob Iger himself from Walt Disney Company and said, "Hey, I've been talking to my friend, the retail partner. I think it was Walmart. Pretty sure it was Walmart. It might have been Target. Who knows?" And Iger says, "Hey, heard you guys don't know how to make toys." And that's what Disney does. So this is actually where they partner with a lot of companies. They don't actually own the properties or anything. They actually manage they're one of the largest licensors and toy makers in the entire world, is the Walt Disney Company. So that's where the conversation started. It started with, "Hey, how can we help you get ready for the next season? Because you are the most dominant children's activity right now." And then the conversation over the months, as they got to know us and we got to know them a lot more, was like, "Okay, actually, we think you're what we need for our digital solution, like fills a hole." So we started discussions of, well, what does it look like? Should we join them? Should we get bought? Should we get sold, etc.? And then migrated into a sales conversation where the best plan forward is just to acquire it. Ourselves, we started learning more and more as we were growing globally. We just couldn't do it. The scale to operate in all these countries, for example, Brazil was one of our largest audiences, and we just couldn't do it. We couldn't like at that time. You have to remember, there's no cloud computing. You have to physically run servers. We had to hire staff to moderate in Brazil, and we didn't have the skill to do it. Like, how do you set up a studio of 400 people in Sao Paulo, Brazil, to operate your product and then pay payroll, taxes, government, wages, incomes, things, HR, all that stuff? It was too much to have to scale in 1 year. And we're just talking one country here. Then you got Europe, and then you got UK, and you got around the world. These kids were just pouring in and wanting to play. And so this is where we really started working with Disney about, hey, what could you do? And they're already there. They operate fully in every single one of these countries as staff and etc. Little side note: it's Disney Canada that bought Club Penguin, so it's stayed here in Canada, but they operate in every single nation. So Disney was ready to go. They're like, "Well, what country do you want to work in? Where do you want to sell? We can go anywhere. You want to go to Japan? You want to go this way? You want to go to India? You want to go to Africa?" They're already there. So this is where it was like, can we scale better for all these audiences and help them out? And this is where the initial conversations were. So it was really about merchandise and global scale. How do you manage these offices worldwide? And that's where, at the end of the day, we picked, we'll join Disney and grow because we couldn't from here. It was a business problem, not a
Lance, you were there
product problem.
So you were there for a couple of years. You were SVP of creative, and then you decided to leave and kind of do something different and create, Hyper Hippo down the line and focus more on mobile. But do you feel like overall that Club Penguin was handled well at Disney, even after you left? And because I think they were shut down, and then there was even someone created their own server and it got 11 million people using it, and then that was shut down because that version wasn't available. But do you think it was handled well? And how was it in terms of parting and kind of doing this other thing? Like, how was it for you handling that?
There's two questions there. So the one question is like leaving Disney and starting mobile and stuff. The entrepreneur in me, on my LinkedIn profile, it says creative catalyst, meaning I start things. I've learned over my career, I'm very good at starting. I do not have any superpower to grow or scale. And I've learned now with all my companies, I get out of the way. everything. I've got a board game company. I got a whole bunch of things. I really, really, really. So 2008, Steve Jobs announced the iPhone. 2010, I believe I left, and I wanted to get so badly into mobile games. I went, this is the future. This is where people are going. This is where the opportunity is for playing games. These devices are going to be the dominant platform. Working within Disney, it's just a large machine. It's built to scale and grow, not invent. Even though it sounds like they should, but not from new things. It's difficult when they operate in tens of millions of dollar budgets to say, hey, I want to do a $50,000 experiment. They just can't. They don't even know how to put that into the accounting system. And those were the dilemmas I was having. I was like, I want to start these projects. And they're like, okay, well, you can't because we don't know how to do that, because by the time we hire a lawyer, it's not worth our time. And it was an interesting conversation I had with my management there. It was basically, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I got to do these things. And they're like, yeah, so, okay, best for you to leave. So we exited early. I had a 5-year non-compete contract. I exited early and started my new ventures and got into mobile games, which then led to the finding of a venture capitalist in idle games in different markets. And that's been exciting. And back to the full circle. I started that and then got out of the way. So I put in a new CEO and management teams to scale the company. I've learned that lesson. And then I went on to the next project. The second part was, did Disney manage it well? That's a loaded question, because now we can look back at the past. And I've heard what happens. At the time, I thought you guys are doing great. You're scaling, growing, going around countries, doing things that I don't know how to do. I have no patience for. I usually am a very good disruptor and pivot in company. I'd probably break the whole game. Plus, I was, I was a rebel. I was doing mobile. But I'd have to say there's a couple big misses that happen. So this is not just Club Penguin. Disney itself, like if you look at it today, Disney has no interactive and gaming group. Disney is a licensing company. They license Star Wars. They license Marvel. They're geniuses at it. Great at manufacturing things, great at managing things around the world. But there's no interactive group, which is an indicator of one of the issues today. Is a lot of people say, well, what happened to Club Penguin? I said, well, if you just look at its org structure, it has no home for Club Penguin. Who is in charge to give Club Penguin love to say, spend some money, go onto the iPhone, grow? There's nobody in charge. Nobody had a budget. Nobody was in charge. So of course the product just kind of there's nobody there. So basically, in my mind, there's a couple things that happen. One of them is there's no interactive group or priority to do interactive. So therefore, when the team was saying, well, we've got this web game and it makes so much money, but web is dying because no kid is playing on a web browser anymore. They're all playing on their iPhones and iPads. Of course, the groups above, which is not their fault, they're sitting in there with their budgets going, well, my budget is for film and toys and licensing. What's this thing? And you're asking for a risk because they're like, well, we need to go to mobile. And they're like, well, none of our other stuff goes to mobile. So it had no, I'm going to sum it up as it had no home, no champion to say, let's build it. And so it kind of just died. The team took what budget they had and tried to build a mobile version. And I think it was 5 years in development before the shut down the main game. And then by the time they launched it, they hadn't gained any experience. That was their first mobile game. So of course, they didn't know. What would people do on a phone? They had no idea. That was their first mobile game they ever made. So, of course, performance-wise, it's not going to work. If you go read Rovio's story or Supercell or any of them, Clash of Clans is not their first game. They made a lot of games until they got to Clash of Clans. So sadly, the Club Penguin team, which is still the Club Penguin team, not Disney, was trying to build their first mobile game and had never built a mobile game before in their lives. And that was their only chance at making a mobile game because they turned off the web version and they only had the mobile game. And they were like telling management, going, keep spending money, even though it makes nothing, and we turned off the other one.
Huh.
So tough place for it. It has no right now. Even people say, Lance, why don't you license it or buy it or do something with it? I said, I'd love to, but
Right.
here's the honest truth. Who do I talk to? There's no interactive division, so I can phone film. They're like, what is this? I can phone toys. They go, we don't do games. I can phone theme parks. Well, that call's not going to go far. They'll basically say, come enjoy some rides. They're experts at it. But what are they supposed to say? They don't sell games. So there's no one there. So I have to escalate it up to the CEO level. Sorry, guys. Iger and them are dealing with billion-dollar acquisitions. They're not dealing with a little game that, by the way, Disney only registers their financial documents in the billions, not in the millions. So it doesn't even show up. That's kind of where it's sitting right now. Anyway, I hope that answered that question. It basically is, in a business case, it has no home and no champion. It has nothing to live in, lead. Because everyone else is being paid for what they do. Experts in film, experts in animation, experts in theme parks, experts in toys, experts in Disney Plus. If you ask them to do interactive, they're like, well, I'm not paid to do that. Or they have no expertise in it.
Well, you would think interactive is so important today. I mean, everything's been going so interactive.
It's just not where the company, it's where the whole company is not. There's no gaming group at the Walt Disney Company. They've made great partnerships. Like Star Wars has gone to, is that EA or Activision? I don't remember who's got it, but they've partnered all the properties.
One of those. So Lance, with Hyper Hippo, like you went out and like, yeah, maybe one day. So Lance, like with Hyper Hippo, like you went out and like you created something. You wanted to focus on mobile, and you've had a couple great, many different great games that have really been impactful through there. But what's kind of your process for coming up with an idea, like being this catalyst, like you mentioned, adventure communist, adventure capital. Like how do you kind of come up with these new types of games?
There's no secret sauce or anything. It's like banging your head against a wall. It's just the creative process. I listen. I try to hear what's going on. I try to guess where the market's kind of going. I make some just guesses. We try to run multiple experiments. So right now I'm running, I don't know, based on all the Post-it notes on my desk here, I think 5 different projects we're trying of new games. All in different markets, different targets, different platforms, etc. And you just manage the costs. I find that if you put together a small team, usually 3, 4, 5 people, put the talent together, focus on an idea, spend 6, 8 months, try to get some sort of early testing. We've now learned really deeply what to track, what numbers to look for, how to estimate profitability, etc. It's just like any startup. If you're in business and you're doing lean startup or anything, you got to get to a point where you can have a customer try it and then actually see if it's real, because they'll all say it's great. I created this other game called Box Critters. Everybody says it's great. The numbers say no. The numbers say I spend 3 or 4 people's time for 2 to 3 weeks to create items for them to collect, and 50,000 users log in for 30 minutes. That's not a business. So I'm trying to rethink that project quite a bit to go, how do I get them to log in every day without my team spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in production? So some things like that. So you just go back to the drawing board and you work on the puzzle and you keep tinkering at it until you figure it out. Do we have another hit right now? No. We have shots for taking on goal. Yes. Could one of them become a hit? Yes. But all you do is you just keep going. We have tons of game concepts in the process. I'm personally leading 5, so that's my process. So
that's why you decide
coming up with ideas. Sorry, keep going.
So Lance, like, why did you decide to be a part of like creating a Netflix exclusive only game and like being part of this new gaming initiative that they have, and how has that kind of worked out so far?
It was really good. Working with Netflix, really enjoyed it. So Netflix entered the market. Man, that's a big loaded question. That's a big question. So to use the fancy word, there's headwinds in our industry. Okay, there's things you got to push against. The Apple Store is getting very, very competitive and hard to get above the noise. It's very hard to get your name even known, a game even known. So if you make a new game, it doesn't mean anyone's going to play it.
Huh.
Steam, same problem. Like I read the report for 2023. It's out. It's astronomical. Like I want to say 20,000. I don't think it was. It was like 20,000 new games put out in a year. Like divide that by 365. It's not. You cannot get above the noise. It's too loud. So what you do in business is you want to look for other gateways, other distributions. So we've tried other stuff. Like people haven't noticed it though. Like we always try to do like our main games, something new for us, and then something that's just different, a foot in another door. We've actually been building not just Netflix. We were building games for Meta, for Google's, for Facebook's Quest. We were running a game team for TikTok. We've been running game teams for each of these products because these are another platform that could spike. It could be another audience of spike. And when Netflix came around and asked, hey, we're looking for some idle games, we went, sure, let's try it out. So we worked with Netflix because you don't know where it's going to go. It could become one of the newer dominant platforms. I honestly think it will. There's a lot of news that says it won't, but I think it will. Based on my history with Miniclip and everything, I think it will. They just have to work on their distribution and discovery because right now everybody looks at a TV, they don't look on their phone. But the little tidbit for North Americans here is the rest of the world actually watches their Netflix on their phone, not their TV. It's the other way around. So Netflix knows that. And they also know games retain, so it keeps people around versus watch one show and they're done. So we decided, hey, let's try the opportunity. Where could it go? So it's a long-term play. So maybe in 5 to 10 years, we might start seeing more and more titles. In my mind, it's another channel. This is just, can we get to the Steam store? Can we get to Google? Can we get to Apple? Can we get to we're actually in talks with Apple Arcade. We're in talks with each of them. It's just Netflix happened to offer the best deal at the time, so we went with it. But they're just new platforms. Will they emerge and become the dominant platforms? I don't know. Maybe. I've had this happen over and over and over.
So just the last question that I have, Lance, like you've done a bunch of things in the gaming space. You're now trying new avenues. Like what do you aspire to accomplish within, I say, the next 5 to 10 years? Like what are some of the goals that you have and things you haven't been able to do yet, maybe?
Some of my goals over the next 5 years? I just have to send a message. I'm late for a meeting. 1 second.
Okay.
By the way, this meeting's for a Nintendo Switch product. Okay.
If you have to go, it's okay.
I don't think in that way. I've never thought 5 years, 3 years, anything. I expect till the day I die to entertain people through games and products and digital entertainment. I love that people make choices and write their own stories by playing a game. I want to continue to create products. Most of what I'm trying to learn right now is actually just my own personal leadership ability. So how many project teams can I successfully lead and and hand off between creative and production so that's a skill that I'm deeply trying to learn. I'm getting a lot of coaching and learning about project management and different skills like that in this later part of my career so that I can do more projects at once is my goal. So I could just touch the creative side, not have to, like in Club Penguin, I actually program the entire thing by myself. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to learn how to delegate that, communicate that, and build those teams and projects and run multiple projects concurrently. So this is my first time I'm feeling comfortable these 5 projects are pretty good. And I have to be so disciplined not to accept the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, because I'll just keep going. And I've done that in my past, and I just burn out. So that's what it is. It's more of a, how do I keep working on very interesting projects with very interesting teams? I don't have a clear answer for you. It's not a, I just love entertaining. I like making projects. Love starting them. Running them? No. It's somebody else's job. Was there a second part to that question?
No, that's it. Well,
Okay. No,
appreciate
I
you
just
coming
like
on,
making
Lance.
games.
I'm excited.
Oh,
Yeah,
excited.
I'm
Cool.
excited to see what you continue to do, and thanks for sharing the story.